welcome back to What's Stranger Than Strange. My name is Erin. So after a long wait, I am back with my next video. For today's episode, we are going to be talking about an exclusive club that ultimately costs its members their life. So to find out what this club is, stay tuned. So the club that we're referencing today is the 27 Club. For those of you that don't know what the 27 Club is, it is a group of famous people, typically musicians for the most part, that ironically all passed away at the age of 27. The first person that was part of this club was loosely based on Sammy from the movie Sinners. That individual's name was Robert Johnson. So Robert was born in the South, and he lived from May 8th, 1911 to August 16th of 1938. The story is one that a lot of people know, but they just don't realize it's the same person. But Mr. Johnson was a musician that was believed to have sold his soul to the devil in order to have the ability to play music really well and sing and all of that. So he is believed to have been, again, the first person that was part of this club. And he initially had done this deal supposedly with the devil for fame and fortune. And then the devil came to collect at the age of 27. The manner of death, people really aren't sure exactly what happened to Mr. Johnson, but they said that there's a possibility that his cause of death may have been from poisoning. Another thing that I have heard is that it may have been related to syphilis, but that's just the ideas that have been floating around. Then the next person on the list is Amy Winehouse. So a lot of people know Amy Winehouse. She was born September 14th of 1983, and she passed away July 23rd of 2011. And Amy was very, very popular for a while out of the UK, and she was known for a lot of really good songs. I believe her most famous album was Back to Black, I want to say was the title of it. And she had passed away at the age of 27 due to alcohol poisoning, but she also had a long history of mental health struggles. I did watch a documentary about her in the past about why she struggled so much psychologically, and that, of course, started to influence her desire for taking in drugs, and then it led to alcoholism, and then ultimately her demise at the age of 27. Another famous person is the rock star Kurt Cobain. He was born February 20th of 1967 and passed away April 5th of 1994. And Mr. Cobain's death was believed to have been a self-inflicted passing. Looking into more of his history for this video, I did find out that Kurt actually suffered from chronic pain, more specifically stomach problems. Also, from what I had read, had ADD, bipolar disorder, but it did sound like he really struggled with constant pain that could not be relieved. And it was believed that he struggled with heroin addiction and alcoholism. Next upon the list was Jim Morrison, who was born December 8th of 1943, passed away July 3rd of 1971. And those who know Jim Morrison know that he was the lead singer for the group called The Doors. And one thing that I found interesting about Mr. Morrison upon watching some documentaries about him was that he had talked about how he had an alter ego that he called the Lizard King. Mr. Morrison was believed to have passed away due to heart failure that was brought on from heroin addiction. That is what I have heard. But there is a debate as to what actually happened to him, because there are a few different types of stories that I've heard. I have heard that he had passed at home. I guess the main story that a lot of people hear about is that he had passed at home, I guess in the bathtub, and was found by his girlfriend. But another story that had come to light was that he actually had passed away due to some form of substance abuse that was occurring while he was in a, I believe a nightclub or hotel, something to that effect, and that something had already happened prior to him being at home, and that the whole story about him being at home initially was fabricated. So that is pretty sketchy to me, that nobody can really agree on what really happened to Mr. Morrison. And next on the list is Jimi Hendrix. He was the famous rock star. A lot of people know him. Like, you don't even really have to say his name, like you know him when you see him. But Jimmy was well known for his music and his ability to play the guitar. I believe he was completely self-taught, and he ended up being like one of the best guitar players that there ever was. And again, he was born November 27th, 1942. He passed away September 18th of 1970. The cause of Mr. Hendrix passing was believed to have been a barbiturate overdose. That is very sad, very, very sad. But it was believed that Mr. Hendrix had a combination of pills, marijuana, possibly, I think it said wine and amphetamine in his system when he had passed. Again, age 27. Next on the list was Miss Janis Joplin. Janis was born in January of 1943, more specifically January 19th. She passed away October 4th of 1970. Janis actually had a pretty sad story when you go back and you look at her life. There was a lot of shaming of her looks when she grew up. Janis was bullied like most of her life. I did find that she was bullied by a lot of people within her community where she lived in Texas, because she refused to carry a lot of the racist ideology that she was surrounded by other people. She just wanted to get along with everybody, and she did not feel that other people were any less than the next person just because of what they look like. And Janis actually was bullied pretty heavily when she was in college. When she was in college, she was actually voted, I believe, like the ugliest man on campus, which really, I think, impacted her even more than the things that she had experienced as a child just growing up. And I believe that probably led to a lot of depression, stress, anxiety. On a lot of her interviews, she was well known to keep a bottle of alcohol with her. I believe it was Southern Comfort was her drink of choice. And she would always have that when she would perform. And I also did notice that she had passed as well from what they suspected was a heroin overdose. Another thing that was kind of odd with Miss Janis was I have heard that she made a change to her will a few days before she had passed. It was almost like she knew something was coming or something to that effect, or I don't know if she was planning something or if something bothered her, like she knew that something was going to happen. So that was Miss Janis. Again, she passed at age 27. Brian Jones was another singer that was born February 28th of 1942. He passed January 3rd of what appears to be 1969. Mr. Jones had apparently passed by drowning in his pool at his home at the age of 27. So Alan Christie was the lead singer for the blues group called Canned Heat. He also was referenced as Blind Owl, which was a name that was given to him by one of his friends because he was virtually blind without his glasses. So if you know anybody by the name of Blind Owl, we are still talking about the same person. So Mr. Wilson had passed away according to sources from accidental barbiturate intoxication. His date of birth was July 4th of 43. He passed September 3rd of 1970. And Mr. Wilson really liked to spend a lot of time in the outdoors. It was not uncommon for him to just take off outside and just spend a lot of time outdoors. And when he was discovered to have passed away, he was actually found outside on a hill behind a home that he was staying in. He had passed away in the outdoors in a sleeping bag. And another thing that is really odd that I have noticed is that there were a group of these famous individuals that had all passed relatively close to each other. And according to Wikipedia, just kind of looking at what it said here, it said 14 months after the death of Brian Jones, that was when Jimi Hendrix passed away. It does say that about 4 weeks after Jimi Hendrix passed, that was when Janis Joplin passed away. About 10 months after Janis Joplin passed away, that was when Jim Morrison passed away. So it's kind of weird that there was like this group of individuals that like all passed away pretty close to each other. There was a channel that I went to called Backstage Legends where they did a documentary on the 27 Club. So Backstage Legends says that there was speculation that these artists needed to quote unquote die as legends so they would be more profitable for the industry. And then looking at another individual, there was a woman named Grace Slick that knew Janis Joplin. And at the age of 86, she started to speak up about some things that she had seen. And it kind of goes in line with that theory. So then looking through all of the notes that I have, there was another thing that I did want to bring up. So there's, again, odd theories about different things, kind of like a conspiracy. There are going to be certain individuals that are always going to have like a conspiracy theory story. But there's something about a white lighter being present with the individuals that passed away in this group. And I don't know if it's being classified as like an omen, or if there's some kind of significance with this, like if it's a sign of, you know, like a sign of something or someone having been there. But yeah, there's this weird conspiracy about a white lighter being around these individuals when they have passed. And another thing that I did want to talk about, because my channel originally started to like talk about things like this from like a Christian perspective, even though that is a very different concept. I did want to just bring up though that when it comes to the idea of selling your soul, I have learned in my own experience, going back to looking at Mr. Johnson's story, you cannot sell your soul because your soul has always belonged to your creator. Your soul has always belonged to God. But what the problem actually is when individuals go into these contracts or things like that, you are entering into a covenant or an agreement with darkness. And when you do that, you know that darkness does not play fair. You know that the devil does not play fair. So as crazy as this sounds, you know that he doesn't play fair and will come to collect on anything that you promise. So with these stories, when you hear about, you know, oh, this person did this or they sold their soul, they're just in agreement with darkness, and they are saying that if you give me this, I will give you this kind of thing. And I learned that concept, I believe, from John Ramirez, if I remember correctly. I had seen him in like a church conference, and he did talk about, you know, how he used to be completely immersed in different types of darkness in the practice of Santeria. And he did say that, you know, you can't sell your soul. But when you enter into that agreement, you are entering into a covenant with darkness, and the devil will come to collect. And when people are out here saying that, you know, they're going to do A, B, and C, or they're going to do this and that in order to be able to become famous and have notoriety, you're eventually you are going to have to pay up. Now, I'm not saying that any of these individuals had done that stuff. I want the individuals to rest in peace that are in this video. I'm not trying to bash their name. I'm just talking about the irony of so many young people passing away at that age, and how there's speculation of certain things that had happened. Because even with Mr. Johnson, people were trying to say, oh, he did this and that, but there really isn't any proof of that. So again, it's not meant to slander anybody's name. I'm not throwing dirt at anybody's name. But another thing is that coming from someone that has struggled for a very long time with depression, anxiety, things like that, if you ever get in a position where you feel like going down the road that some of these individuals have, please do not turn to things like drugs and alcohol to remedy your pain. Don't do things to yourself in desperation to escape this life. Like, don't do things like that to yourself. Because again, I'm coming from a Christian YouTuber's point of view, that the world is a better place with you. Even on those darkest days, like you don't need to medicate. Even if you don't believe the way that I do, I know that every one of us was created for a purpose. Every one of us was created with a soul that does belong to God. I care about you, God cares about you. Even if you've never asked for help your entire life, ask God to help you. Ask God to show you that He really will be there for you, and He will. And if you ever get into a dark place, I'm just tying that into the fact that there's so many young people that have passed. There is a number that you can call. I know of at least, I guess here in the States, you just call the number 988 if you ever get into a tough spot. Just dial 988. I know that there is a longer number, 1-800-273-8255. So do not allow things to take over your life in such a way that you feel like you have to turn to darkness to medicate, because it's not going to help your problems. You're just going to be there. You're still going to have those same problems when you recover from the night before. If you do enjoy this content that I have given you all today, don't forget to give it a like. Please comment, subscribe to my channel, and until we meet again, everybody take care. Bye-bye.